Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 9. My name is Xavier Robert, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Tinubu departs for France to attend Financial Pact Summit. Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Umoina commences talks with Turkish government on agricultural partnership. Plus, Judge sets Trump's trial date for mid-August. Details of these stories and more in a moment. We'll begin the news tonight with Nigeria's leader, President Bola Tinubu, who has departed for Paris to join world leaders in Paris, France, to review and sign a new global financial pact that places vulnerable countries on a priority list for support and investment following the devastating impact of climate change, the energy crisis, and the COVID-19 pandemic. According to a statement by his special advisor and special duties communication and strategy, Dele Alake, the president will join other world leaders in Paris, France, to review and sign a new global financial pact that places vulnerable countries on priority list for support and investment following devastating impacts of climate change, energy crisis, and after effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. The two-day summit, hosted by President Emmanuel Macron of France at Palais Brongniart, will look at opportunities to restore fiscal space to countries that face difficult short-term financial challenges, especially the most indebted, mobilize innovative financing for countries vulnerable to climate change, foster development in low-income countries, and encourage investment in green infrastructure for the energy transition in emerging and developing economies. The president was accompanied by members of the Presidential Policy Advisory Council and senior government officials. He will return to Abuja on Saturday. In the meantime, the president has called for stronger and better cooperation with the United States as Nigeria and the rest of the world move in the quest for renewable and other sources of clean energy. Tinubu made the call during a meeting with U.S. Assistant Secretary of State, Bureau of Energy Resources Geoffrey Pride at the State House, Abuja. The president presented his perspectives to the U.S. delegation on the role of Nigeria as an oil-producing country and the importance of revenue from fossil oil to national economic well-being. The Nigeria's leader appealed to the United States and other developed nations to recognize that Nigeria and Africa have a challenge of poverty that must be addressed, urged the Assistant Secretary of State to impress on his home government the urgency of responding to the needs of Nigeria. According to him, Nigeria will honor all its obligations to climate change and quest for clean energy. Meanwhile, President Tinubu has approved the dissolution of boards of federal government, parastatal agencies, institutions, and government-owned companies. This was contained in a statement by the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, SGF. In the statement signed by the Director of Information, Willie Bassi, on behalf of the SGF, George Akume, the President took the decision in the exercise of its constitutional powers and in the public interest. According to the statement, the dissolution does not affect boards, commissions, and councils listed in the third schedule, Section 153, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. The permanent secretaries were also directed to route the correspondences to the President through the office of the SGF. In a separate development, Vice President Kashim Shettima has decorated the new Acting Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, at the State House today. The ceremony, which took place today, had in attendance the National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu, Chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, Hope Uzodimma, the President's Chief of Staff, Femi Gbajabiamila, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, and the immediate past IGP, Usman Al-Khali. Meanwhile, the declaration follows his appointment by the President, Bola Tinubu. Away from that, now the federal government has appealed to religious leaders to restructure its hospitals to help improve the country's healthcare system. The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Health at Debiyi Olufunsho, made this appeal today at the commissioning of the modern hemodialysis machines and other equipment donated to the Federal Medical Center by the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints in Abuja. Olufunsho noted that years ago, missionary hospitals were one of the largest hospitals in the country, adding that restructuring will help reduce the burden on public hospitals. He appealed to religious leaders to go back to those old religions and revisit the construction of hospitals that would be affordable to the average Nigerian. Meanwhile, the federal government and organized labor, as represented by the Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) and the Trade Union Congress (TUC), have agreed on an 8-week deadline to resolve all contentious issues and implement the resolutions arising from the demands of labor over recent removal of fuel subsidy by government. This emerged just as Justice Olufunke Anoe of the Abuja Division of the National Industrial Court yesterday reiterated that her order of June 5 restraining the NLC and TUC from embarking on their planned industrial action remains in force. Reports say the federal government and the leadership of the NLC and the TUC agreed that all the issues and demands raised should be concluded within 8 weeks. The two parties also set up a presidential steering committee. On judicial matters now, where the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory has fixed July 13 for the ruling on the enforcement of a fundamental rights suit filed by the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Godwin Emefiele. Justice Hamza Muazu fixed the date after listening to submissions made by parties in the case. Listed as first to third respondents in the suit are the Attorney General of the Federation, the Director General of the State Security Service, and the State Security Service. According to reports during the proceedings, counsel for the Attorney General of the court to hear the case brought before it by the applicant. He said Emefiele's arrest and detention by the DSS is an administrative decision of an arm of the executive, and that the jurisdiction is determined by the relief sought by an applicant, and contended that the allegation of unlawful detention is unfounded, as the embattled CBN boss is being detained on the order of an FCT Chief Magistrate Court, and urged the court to dismiss the application. On its part, the second and third respondents, represented by counsel I. Awo, informed the court that there was a subsisting order to detain the applicant, and therefore urged the court to dismiss the application with costs. Meanwhile, both the counsel to the DSS and the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation requested an extension of time to file their responses to the originating motion, and the court granted the request. Meanwhile, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party (PDP), Atiku Abubakar, and his party will on Thursday close their case at the Presidential Election Petition Court (PEPC) in their joint petition challenging the outcome of the February 25 presidential election. The petitioners, according to a pre-hearing report, were supposed to close their case today. However, at the resumed hearing of the petitioners' lead counsel Chris Uche San told the court that his clients lost 2 days out of the days allotted to them, and prayed the court to allow them 2 more days. The court agreed with Uche because one of the days lost was the Democracy Day public holiday of June 12. Earlier, Uche told the court that in spite of the spirit of cooperation that the court had appealed for. It was still difficult to get certified true copies (CTC) of documents from the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC). In another development, the immediate past Benue State Governor's State capital, Otom was in EFCC's office today following an invitation by the anti-graft agency. Reports say he was invited over an ongoing investigation concerning alleged misappropriation of funds during his time in office. On security, the Association of Retired Police Officers of Nigeria, APAN, has appealed to President Bola Tinubu to sign into law the bill for an act to exit the Nigeria Police Force from the contributory pension scheme. The president of APAN, Stephen Ayewumi, made the appeal in a statement in Abuja today. Ayewumi said the appeal became necessary to enable the retired police officers have the required benefits accruable to them and avoid any case of misappropriation in their retired benefits dues. However, he commended the 9th National Assembly for listening and taking into consideration the yearnings of the force in passing and transmitting to the President for his assent the bill for an act to exit the Nigeria Police Force from the contributory pension scheme. Still on security now, where the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA) has arrested 31,675 drug offenders, out of which 5,147 were prosecuted and convicted over 6.3 million kilograms of assorted drugs seized since the appointment of the chairman and chief executive officer of the agency, Buba Marwa. The NDLEA boss, while addressing a joint press briefing in Abuja with a country representative of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, Oliver Stolpe, said the fight against substance abuse and illicit drug trafficking had yielded significant results in the last 29 months since he came on board. Marwa, however, charged the society to drop the stigmatization that discourages drug users from seeking treatment, a development which he lamented has serious socio-economic repercussions for individuals and their families. In another development, the Director General and Commandant of the Merchant Navy Corps, Alan Edema, has urged the 10th National Assembly to pass the Nigerian Merchant Navy Coast Guard Security and Safety Corps Establishment Bill to end crude oil theft in the country. Edema said this while addressing reporters in Abuja. The commandant recalled that the bill for the establishment of the Nigerian Merchant Navy Coast Guard Security and Safety Corps was introduced in the 8th Senate by former Deputy Senate President Ovie Omoagege. The legislative action could not be concluded on it. Edema said the bill, among others, seeks the creation of the Coast Guard Corps, whose Director General shall also be the Commandant and Chief Executive Officer appointed by the President, subject to confirmation of the Senate. In a separate development, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NERC) has welcomed the timely assent to the new Electricity Act 2023 by President Bola Tinubu, disclosing that a stakeholders workshop will hold next month to iron out the rough edges, while highlighting the granting of legislative autonomy to the federating states on matters relating to the generation, transmission and distribution of electricity in their respective jurisdictions. NERC, in a public notice, described it as a very significant development. It stated that the landmark legislations mark a pivotal shift in the structure of the power sector and present the potential of bringing about positive developments needed for powering Nigeria's economy to greater hark to market participants and consumers. Back here, in line with the agricultural revolution philosophy of the present Akwa Ibom State government, Governor Moino has commenced talks with the Turkish government on possible areas of partnership. Speaking during a courtesy visit to the ambassador of the Republic of Turkey in Nigeria, Hidayat Bayraktar. Governor Eno stated that one of the major focus of his administration is agricultural revolution, noting that the government of Akwa Ibom State is willing and ready to partner with key players in the global agricultural subsector to achieve the lofty goal. Governor Eno, who was conducted round the greenhouse at the Embassy of the Republic of Turkey, assured the ambassador that Akwa Ibom is one of the most peaceful states in the country, and with large expanse of arable land, which, if maximally cultivated, could feed its people, the country, and even more. In his response, the ambassador of the Republic of Turkey to Nigeria, Hidayat Bayraktar, appreciated Governor Eno for the visit and assured him that his country would not hesitate to partner with the state government to achieve its aim of revolutionizing the agricultural sector. Meanwhile, the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly has formally announced its principal officers for the 8th Assembly. Speaker of the House, Udemo Tong, at plenary today announced Sunday Udofort Onna as the leader of the House, with Barrister Otobong Bob Nsurubium as the deputy leader. Similarly, the Speaker named Efyong Johnson Mbo as the chief whip, as well as Samson Idyong as deputy chief whip of the House. Also at plenary, the Speaker announced the constitution of an ad hoc committee to spearhead the selection of chairmen and members of 23 standing committees of the House. Meanwhile, chaired by the Speaker, Udemo Tong, the committee has Anyefyok Ata Nsaratai as secretary. Other members of the committee include the Deputy Speaker, Kufrabasi Edidem Itu, Asukwo Udo Ikono, Mfonidung Ika and Itmekbo, Uwem Imoita Mkbarenin, Udom Ukanafon, and Udwak Ikbofort Etinen. Others are Selina Ukpatu Ikorabasi Isunobolo, Jerio Tu Ikorekbene Obolo Kara, Basi Pius Okobo, and Efyong Johnson Mbo. The Speaker urged the committee to report back to the House within 24 hours. In the meantime, the House has adjourned its plenary to Thursday, June 22, 2023 by 10 a.m. Still to come in the news. German population rises the most in 30 years. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying tuned. Let's move on now to Africa, where the head of the United Nations Refugee Agency, Filippo Grandi, has said the number of people who have fled Sudan has reached more than 500,000. He said 2 million others were internally displaced. Meanwhile, Sudan's warring military factions have accused each other of violating the latest temporary ceasefire. The Sudanese army said the paramilitary rapid support forces had carried out an attack in North Darfur for a second consecutive day. It would be recalled that US and Saudi mediators announced the 72-hour truce on Saturday. In a related development, the warring military factions in Sudan accused each other of violating the latest temporary ceasefire. The Sudanese army said the paramilitary rapid support forces, RSF, had carried out an attack in North Darfur for a second consecutive day. The Red Cross said the ceasefire was not being respected and they had to abort an operation to transfer wounded soldiers to a hospital. Earlier, residents in the capital Khartoum reported a lull in fighting, saying they had heard no airstrikes, artillery or other fighting there. It will be recalled that US and Saudi mediators had announced the 72-hour truce on Saturday. Previous truces have been poorly observed. In the meantime, the French authorities have denied claims that French military personnel were recently detained by Chadian forces near the border with Sudan because they were in the area illegally. Video and images shared on Twitter show several uniformed men with French military insignia crouching on the ground, guarded by a group of Chadian soldiers one of whom is speaking on the phone. Some posts refer to the men being arrested because they were illegally mining gold or spying. They said a joint French-Chadian patrol had set off from Arbeich in eastern Chad and was about 30 miles, 48 kilometers away from the border when they were stopped by a Chadian army checkpoint which had been unaware of their mission. According to the French authorities, the French soldiers were out checking the state of the roads before the rainy season in Chad and were allowed to proceed once the misunderstanding had been cleared up. Meanwhile, France has requested an invitation to attend a BRICS summit scheduled to take place in South Africa in August. BRICS is an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It is seen by some as an alternative to the G7 group of developed nations who have been highly critical of China and Russia. South Africa is currently holding the BRICS presidency. Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to visit Paris later this week to further discuss the French request. Still in Africa, the U.S. State Department has called for an orderly and responsible drawdown of the UN peacekeeping mission in Mali, known as MINUSMA, following Bamako's call for its departure without delay. The U.S. Department noted that they will continue to work with their partners in West Africa to help them tackle the urgent security and governance challenges in Mali, noting that they had welcomed consultations with regional leaders on additional steps to promote stability and prevent conflict. The department added that the military-led Malian government must adhere to all its commitments, notably transferring power to an elected civilian administration by March 2024. Elsewhere, Kenya's trade minister is being accused of intimidating one of the largest media groups in Kenya over its expose of a cooking oil scandal. The nation media group's investigation looked at how a state agency under the Trade Ministry reportedly single-sourced private firms to import cooking oil tax-free. According to reports, under Kenyan law, such tax exemptions can only be made for emergency relief goods, with the entire deal potentially leading to the loss of more than $100 million. The minister, Moses Kuria, lashed out over the report and has banned government agencies from advertising with the media group. Meanwhile, Ugandan police say they have arrested 20 people suspected of collaborating with Islamist militants believed to have attacked a school last Friday. The head teacher and school director are among the detained. It will be recalled that 42 people, mostly students, were killed at Lubiria Secondary School in Mpondwe in western Uganda. Many were burned to death in their dormitory. Meanwhile, the Ugandan army is still hunting Allied Democratic Forces ADF militants who have reportedly moved back over the border into Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, where they are based. In the meantime, lawyers representing Rwandan genocide suspect Fulgence Kayinshema, who had been on the run for 22 years before his arrest last month, have told the Cape Town Magistrates Court that their client will apply for asylum on political grounds in South Africa. It could delay his possible extradition to Rwanda for several years and significantly delay his trial on charges of genocide, complicity to genocide, and crimes against humanity. He is accused of directly participating in the killings as well as ordering the massacre on 15th April 1994 of 2,000 ethnic Tutsi people who were hiding in a Catholic church in western Rwanda. He was indicted in 2001 by the UN's International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda ICTR, which has since closed, with his case being transferred to Rwanda for trial. Now into the foreign scene, where the federal judge overseeing the Justice Department's prosecution of former President Donald Trump on charges related to his mishandling of national security information and obstruction of justice has set a preliminary trial date for mid-August. Judge Aileen Cannon for the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida today issued an order scheduling Trump's trial to begin on August 14, though Trump's team is expected to file a number of motions seeking to delay proceedings on various grounds. The order also leaves open the possibility of continuances based on the complexity of the case and issues around classified documents and security clearances. Meanwhile, Cannon's order requires pre-trial motions to be filed in just over a month on July 24. Still on the foreign scene, where Iceland's government said today it was suspending this year's whale hunt until the end of August due to animal welfare concerns, likely bringing the controversial practice to a historic end. Animal rights groups and environmentalists hailed the decision, with the Humane Society International calling it a major milestone in compassionate whale conservation. A recent monitoring report by Iceland's Food and Veterinary Authority on the fin whale hunt found that the killing of the animals took long based on the main objectives of the Animal Welfare Act. Meanwhile, shocking video clips recently broadcast by the Veterinary Authority showed a whale's agony as it was hunted for 5 hours. The country has only one remaining whaling company. In the meantime, 9 Egyptian men accused of causing a disaster last week when a vessel carrying hundreds of people sank off the Greek coast have pleaded not guilty. Reports say the 9 suspects, all aged between 20 and 40, are accused of people smuggling and other offenses. A lawyer for one of the men said his client was a passenger, not a smuggler. According to reports, at least 78 migrants are known to have died in the disaster, but many more feared to have drowned. The UN's Human Rights Office says that up to 500 people are still missing. The 9 suspects causing a shipwreck and human trafficking. The suspects will be back in court when it will be decided whether they will remain in jail until the start of the trial. So on the foreign scene, a senior Ukrainian military official, Sergei Popko, says Russia has launched another massive air attack on Kiev today with Iran-made attack drones. Popko, the head of Kiev City Military Administration, noted that the drones enter the capital in waves and from different directions, prompting the air raid alarm to go off for over 3 hours. According to Popko, about 24 drones targets were identified and destroyed by the forces, adding that it is the second Shahed drone attack on Kiev this month. Elsewhere, European officials have reportedly promised Tunisia ever-growing amounts of aid to prevent migrants from reaching Europe's shores. France's domain in a visit to Tunisia announced a budget to train Tunisian border guards and equip them. Reports say the immediate financial package of 100 million euros to combat irregular migration, as announced by the European Commission, will open up significant additional possibilities. Meanwhile, 4 people have been injured after a man allegedly attacked diners with an axe at several Chinese restaurants in Auckland with a hammer-like thing. The police has said a Chinese national was arrested at the scene and has been charged with causing grievous bodily harm. The police further stated that the attack did not appear to be racially motivated and was being treated as an isolated incident. Meanwhile, 3 people remain in hospital in stable conditions. Still on the foreign scene, where Bavarian police say a cross that former Pope Benedict used to wear on his chest has been stolen from a church in southern Germany, where it was on display today. The pectoral cross was in a case in the wall of St. Oswald's Church in Traunstein, in the state of Bavaria, where the late Benedict spent his adolescent years. According to the police, thieves broke into the case and took the item, which the former Pope had bequeathed to the parish between 11:45 a.m., that is about 09:45 GMT, and 5 p.m. The perpetrators, whose identities are unknown, also broke into a cash register of a magazine stand and stole the money inside. Meanwhile, the police is appealing for witnesses who may have seen anyone acting suspiciously around the church to come forward. Now in business, Germany's population grew by 1.12 million or 1.3% to 84.4 million in 2022 after a meager 0.1% increase the year before. It was the largest annual surge in population numbers since the country's reunification over 3 decades ago, primarily attributed to a notable influx of 1.46 million individuals through net immigration, mainly caused by the refugee movements from Ukraine. This represented a significant increase compared to the 329,000 recorded in 2021. Reports say, similar to previous years, the number of deaths exceeded the number of births in 2022. Meanwhile, the disparity between deaths and births further widened to 327,000 compared to 228,000 in 2021. Still in business, the federal government has said 6 new companies have received approval to import petroleum products into Nigeria. The managing director of Nigeria Mainstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority (NMDRA), Farouk Ahmed, made this disclosure to newsmen at the presidential villa. Farouk stated that apart from the approved 6, several companies applied for permits to import petroleum in due course. He also debunked insinuation that the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL) had given approval to Dangote Group to import petroleum, saying that the company has no powers to give such approval. Meanwhile, Airtel Africa has said the devaluation of the naira will affect the revenue of the company in 2023, according to a statement released by the network provider today. Prior to naira's devaluation, Airtel Nigeria had stated that a 1% devaluation of the naira will result in a negative impact of $22 million on revenues, $12 million on EBITDA, and $7 million on finance costs, excluding derivatives, on a 12-month basis. However, the value of the naira has now dropped by 65.9% or 306 naira in the last 1 week, which means the impact will be more significant than initially projected by Airtel. Despite the expected impact, Airtel said it welcomes the decision to unify the multiple exchange rates, as it will alleviate the scarcity challenges faced in assessing dollar. Still to come in the news. The set is planning next big upgrade for Silverstone. To stay with us.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people. But there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my
this
lord.
an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on Channel 421 on StarTimes to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories, and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
Every day, we bring you up-to-date information on topical issues affecting the common Nigerian, from issues on politics,
Hello, Nigeria. I remain committed.
security, education, health, lifestyle, and so much more. Join Janice Kobum and Uyai Anyekan every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily, exclusive on Spectrum Television.
Thanks for staying tuned. We're moving on to health, where the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, says it has started a nationwide mop-up of unregistered herbal medicines. The Director General of NAFDAC, Mojisola DAA, disclosed this at a news conference held in Abuja. And the DAA explained that the action followed a recent discovery of the sale of uncertified, unregistered herbal medicines by Dr. Salisu Sani Nawajini, popularly known as Baban Aisha, and other. The NAFDAC DG appealed to Nigerians, especially the vulnerable groups, against the use of dangerous herbal preparations. This was as she reiterated NAFDAC's determination to ensure that only safe and efficacious medicines, wholesome foods and quality regulated products are sold and used by Nigerians. Recall that NAFDAC had on Wednesday, June 14, raided and sealed the production factory of Baba Naisha at Taraf on Abuja Kaduna Road. So in health, the medical experts have blamed the alarming rate of babies born with HIV in Nigeria on the lack of access to HIV testing by pregnant women during antenatal care. The experts said it is important for pregnant women to access HIV testing, noting that people who test positive must be placed on treatment and encouraged to deliver in certified health facilities for early infant diagnosis services. They also identified low antenatal uptake and low delivery in certified health facilities by mothers as other reasons responsible for HIV in infants. The medical experts called for training of traditional birth attendants in HIV management, adding that pregnant women patronizing them should have access to HIV testing to further prevent mother-to-child transmission of HIV. Next, 4 races, with 2 upgrades planned ahead of Formula One's summer break. The team introduced a major upgrade at the Monaco Grand Prix with the aim of opening up a new, more fruitful development direction. According to reports, podium finishes at the last 2 races in Spain and Canada have boosted confidence at Mercedes, and team boss Toto Wolff said another step is planned in 2 races' time at the British Grand Prix in early July. Meanwhile, Mercedes has pinpointed a lack of rear grip in slow speed corners as one of its main weaknesses compared to rival teams. Mercedes is currently second in the Constructors' Championship, 154 points behind Red Bull and 13 points clear of Aston Martin in third. Still in sports, former world number 2 Anett Kontaveit has announced her retirement from tennis due to a condition in her back. The Estonian said the problem does not allow for full-scale training or continued competition, and explained Wimbledon will be her last tournament. The 27-year-old's best result in a Grand Slam tournament was reaching the Australian Open quarterfinals in 2020. According to the NHS, Kontaveit has lumbar disc degeneration, which can cause pain, numbness, and pins and needles. Meanwhile, Wimbledon starts on 3rd July and the draw will be made on 30th June. Now in football, the hope of Cameroon taking part in this year's Under-23 African Cup of Nations has finally been dashed after the Court of Arbitration for Sports ruled in favor of Gabon. Cameroon lost out to Gabon in the final round of the qualifier, but had protested CAF when Gabon using a player called Gabe from Double Personality. CAF initially ruled in favor of Cameroon, but Gabon approached the appeal and got their ticket back. Reports say Cameroon protested to CAS, and the sports body today finally Gabon and dumped Cameroon out of the competition. The tournament is scheduled to start in Morocco next week, with 4 semi-finalists representing the continent in the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. In the meantime, following the recent reappointment of Brendan Rodgers at Scottish club Celtic, Nigerian midfielder Wilfred Ndidi is handed a lifeline from English Football League Championship club Leicester City. Ndidi endured an injury-prone 2022-2023 season which saw him struggle for game time both for club and country, missing international friendlies and league games concurrently. According to reports, Ndidi featured in 1 out of 3 international friendlies for the Super Eagles between September and November 2022, playing in the 4-0 loss to Portugal after missing the games against Algeria and Costa Rica. During that same period, Ndidi picked up a knock against Nottingham Forest in the first week of October, which saw him miss out on 5 subsequent games before returning to the bench against Manchester City. Celtic's new boss Brendan Rodgers, who makes a return to the Scottish Premier League after 4 years away, will look to strengthen his midfield with familiar faces from his former club, with his long-term faithful servant Ndidi top of the food chain. And now on entertainment news, Ghanaian actress Yvonne Nelson has revealed that she was impregnated by Ghanaian rapper Michael Owusu-Addo, popularly known as Sarkodie. The actress revealed this in her newly released book titled I Am Not Yvonne Nelson. In a chapter titled A Difficult Decision, she said she found herself in a complex situation involving a rapper after he refused to take responsibility for the pregnancy. She said she had to abort the pregnancy because she is fatherless and did not expect to give birth to a child whose father had refused to accept responsibility. In a related development, Yvonne Nelson revealed how she found out her Nigerian ex-boyfriend singer Inyanya was cheating on her with Nollywood actress Tonto Dike. She made the revelation in the same book, I Am Not Yvonne Nelson. In a chapter titled Inyanya and My Love Life, the actress spoke about her escapades with Inyanya and how she later found out he was cheating on her. She said she was shocked when someone called her from Inyanya's house after she returned to Ghana and broke the shocking news to her, telling her that anytime she leaves Inyanya's place, another actress will come over. In a separate development, Nigerian singer Portable has been awarded the Golden Star Artist of the Year prize for his efforts in the year in view. While accepting the award, Portable stated that after picking up the Golden Star Awards, his next order of business was to bring home the Grammys. Afrobeat street sensation Portable has declared his intention to win the Grammys. While much is not known about the Golden Star Awards and what basis Portable emerged as the Artist of the Year, the award has nevertheless fueled Portable's resolution to take his career to a greater height that will see him bring home the biggest prize in music. And lastly, on entertainment tonight, popular American rapper Milton Powell, professionally known as Big Pokey, is dead. The 45-year-old singer collapsed on stage while performing at a bar in Beaumont, Texas on Saturday night. Footage from the event showed the Houston-born rapper with a mic in his hand, speaking with a DJ on stage when he exhaled heavily, tripped and fell. The incident was confirmed in a statement on the rapper's verified Instagram page. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 9. My name is Xavier Roberts, wishing you a terrific night rest. Bye for now.